Hello and welcome to the Dweebz in Japanese podcast. I am one of your hosts, Patrick.
And I am also one of your hosts, Khalil.
Hello, Khalil. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. This is the ASMR bound podcast.
There are a lot of podcasts that are like that, though, like the, kind of the odd radio.
Yeah, like the soft
spoken. I have to talk like this.
I was listening to a Stoic. I don't know if you're into like Stoicism, that whole philosophy. I think it was created and theorized by materialized by the Greek philosophers, and so like a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, especially the ones who are like the motivational people. I like to listen to the Stoic podcasts, and I was listening to one. It was like, "You are not you. You are your thoughts about yourself. You make you. Da 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 da." It's like basically like don't listen to anything other people say except for when it's constructive. And it was like, okay, cool. So just be a statue. No, it's actually kind of interesting though. Like, I don't know. This is not a Stoicism podcast. This is a Japanese language learning podcast. So let's get into that. So Khalil, I wanted to ask you on recording, how are you?
How am I? I'm doing pretty all right. Just been trying to maximize the amount of things I can learn at all times.
Yeah, are you currently on break? Is that the thing?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've been way more than normal because you're really busy most of the time. So you've been.
Mm-hmm. So it's been nice.
So excited about drawing, about Japanese learning, and it's awesome. Have you started the drawing thing yet? The drawing.
I'm still working on some of my what are they called, like assets for setting up the channel.
Cool. Yeah, you need to make us a logo too.
It's more of the I'll get to that at some point too. That was part of the plan.
Sweet.
Yeah, but what about you? How are you doing? How's the wonderful life over there?
It's good,
buddy.
That part's not so great. Being away from everybody's not so great, but being
but you're away from all the chaos in a way.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, what's weird is that a lot of so I skateboard, right? And there's a lot of like skateboard pros. Everybody knows Tony Hawk, right? Tony Hawk was over in I think he was in Maui for a little bit. He's probably still there. There's a bunch of people fleeing California just because California is on crazy lockdown right now, and a lot of them are coming to Hawaii. So that's been really interesting to see a bunch of people that I admire and follow and stuff coming over here because they're trying to escape the mainland. I heard that the mainland also is going to have, or at least does now, or at least is going to have PCR test requirements for people flying back and forth now. Yeah, I think that was the case because I think it was relaxed or whatever, or there was never a thing before, but now it's been managed. Oh, like the 2-week quarantine thing. Like we had a quarantine when we moved over here, but we didn't have to do a test. Now they have it like it doesn't really matter if you quarantine or not. Now you have to. So you have to do that and quarantine. Yeah, so it's kind of odd, but I guess it makes sense. It's like the same Japanese rule, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's been good. I like the people of here a lot. I like the weather, obviously. I've been a lot.
Oh yeah.
Outdoorsy stuff. We're planning to go to town today to get a table and a dining table. We don't have a real dining table. We've been using this like the fold up picnic table for years. And then Judy's like, we need to get a real, it's time for an upgrade. And I'm like, do we really need it? Because like I'm not necessarily cheap. I just don't really care. But I think we should get one now. I mean, it's nice to have one because I don't like sitting on the couch and it's just not back. It doesn't feel good. So so we're gonna go get that, and then we're gonna go to the dog park and chill. I'm sure she's gonna want to stop by the Japanese supermarket to pick up some stuff because she doesn't say that's in our plans, but I know it's in our plans because we always go there. A bunch of good food. So yeah, I wanted to update everybody on the news. We kind of updated each other a little bit on it, but obviously for the podcast, we need to say it.
We'll go into those sweet details.
Right. So reading the Yahoo News, the Japanese Yahoo News, which if you want to look at, it's news.yahoo.co.jp. I never understood why they had a co.jp, co.uk. Never. I have to look in the history of why they have
I'm sure there's some...
co. Because com and edu and org were the first ones, but anyways, there's been 7,013 people confirmed positive as of Saturday. I think that's total. Yeah, I think that's total. They say new cases though. Aratani. So I think like that's the new number. Is what I mean. That's the new number is 7,013. So as of Saturday, so as of Saturday, the and then they say also the critically ill are like 965, which is more than 10%, which is crazy. That's like, I don't even know. I don't do the math in my head because I can't.
I can't either. It's okay.
There's been 56 people who have died, and that's. I mean, it was what, like a week ago when we did the podcast, it was 2,000. So it's gone up.
It was much lower.
300 something percent.
So something's going on, maybe.
Something's going on. There's been lockdowns. I don't have an article saying the lockdowns, but just from like anecdotal evidence, I was told by my wife and family that they're like shutting things down at 8 p.m. And the nightlife obviously is a big thing over there. So yeah, the 8 p.m. lockdown actually cuts down a lot of businesses. Like, for example, her really good family friends, they have a small restaurant, and it's a pretty like premium restaurant. It's not necessarily fancy, just the food is really good, and it's really, really intimate space. There's like 3 tables.
So it's like
a bar area.
Above average.
It's above average for sure. It's kind of a pricey, but it's really, really, really good. It's like this couple, and their names are Masta is like the chef, right? And then Mama is like they have real names, but that's just like their nicknames for the family. And then Masta is really common for like the chef. So, and their food's really, really good. Masta is like he makes all the food. And then Mama is like the one. She's like going around and servicing everybody.
Yeah. Where's this located?
This is like down the street from her house. So you walk 15 minutes from her family's house, and you walk around the corner, and it's on a busier street. But yeah, like you walk through like the her neighborhood, and actually behind their house, in front of their house, is a hatake, like a little field for crops. So there's this really old, couple 100-year-old Japanese house next to their new like modern house. And which is crazy. It's like a pretty stark contrast. And then that family's been running this this hatake for like, I don't even know, probably 100 years or maybe even more. They had more land. Like that was all not suburbs. It wasn't. I mean, to me, it's kind of city. To Judy, it's not city at all. It's like the outskirts of the city. If that, it's not even suburbia to her. She doesn't think it's Tokai. She doesn't think it's city at all. But I definitely do. It's a lot more city than say Paulsbo. That's all just like trees.
Little shops
and little tiny shops. Yeah. But yeah, you walk through like there's actually two. There's two like little fields and old Japanese houses with the typical. I don't even know what they're called, but like the typical Japanese roofing and style. They just maintain their houses for a couple 100 years, and so you're like walking past 2 of those, and they have it depends on the season. They'll have like watermelon growing, or they'll have
cool.
or they'll have like corn growing, and so they just keep turning. And he's like always. This is one older gentleman who's doing it. He's always growing like 4 or 5 different crops at the same time, and it's small. Like it's probably as big as maybe like a cul-de-sac or something, or maybe a little bit bigger, but it's square.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he'll have like corn and then cucumbers, and then depending on the season, if it's like winter, he'll have strawberries, and I think he had pumpkins at one time, and like just all sorts of different things. And the soil's like really rich because there's a bunch of different like crops. And then I think he has, he'll have like green onions, and I don't think he does daikon. I don't think he does, but maybe he does. So it's kind of cool to like see all the different. And then the next house near that house has like peach trees and and I think plum trees and a bunch of different trees too. And what's not neat is that they sell their produce in these like little coin lockers. And so what you just like, you insert, 25 yen or like 100 yen, so usually 100 yen. You insert a 100 yen coin into the little slot, and then it opens the little locker, and you can take out your produce. So it's just like there in like a self-service vending machine type of thing. It's kind of cool.
Nice. That is cool.
Like super fresh, and dude, it's so good, man. The one time we had corn and watermelon, and it's just so good. It's kind of neat. It's just right there. It's like on your way back, because actually it's on the way to. You can walk to the grocery store, and on your way back, you can pick up the things you didn't get,
nice.
Or vice versa. It's really nice. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we miss her hometown a lot. It's really, really, really cute and fun. If you come to Japan too, we'll definitely want to show you around.
Yeah, that would be amazing, I think.
Yeah. So, but yeah, more coronavirus news. The reasons why we can't go.
Yeah.
So
let's hope for this. This year will be a little more eventful with things we can do.
Well, what I wanted to also point out was the some of the plans for the vaccine in the country. It looks like they are trying to roll out a bunch of vaccination locations in Japan by June. And if I'm understanding this article correctly, this is also on Yahoo News. They're giving some background behind the vaccine, like the Pfizer vaccine. But they're also saying that their plan is to have 10,000 locations in Japan that can service 5,000 people per location. And so I don't do the math there. 5,000 times 10,000 times 5,000, whatever that number is. So that's kind of exciting. I don't know how that's actually going to happen. The rollout has been pretty bad here. So I wonder how that's going to work. I mean, Japanese people are pretty obedient and acknowledge, but I don't know. They've been kind of like lax with actually how they conduct themselves during this pandemic. So I have no idea how it's going to work.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's always easier to plan something than it is actually executed.
Yeah, especially with the restrictions, right? Because they say in the article too, like it has to be, it can be saved, refrigerated at that crazy temperature, minus 75 degrees. I think that's Celsius, for 5 days. And so if you extend that, it's not good. And if you accidentally warm it up, it's bad. So imagine that, like,
it's timing much harder.
Yeah, so you have to fly that. You have to fly that out, probably on planes, right, from the U.S. to Japan, and that's like 1 day, and then you have 4 more days to like get it to the location and then actually inject it in somebody's arm. That's crazy, and keep it at the same temperature, like a crazy cold temperature.
Exactly. So you can't just order a ton of it. You have to order strategic amounts. That way, none of it goes bad.
Yeah, and we're talking about Japan news, but I mean, the U.S. has our own issues, and I mean the U.S. government has ordered a bunch of, but not enough of the vaccine.
Yeah,
and then other countries also want to know it too. So it's like it's going to be crazy. I think the U.S. is going to be behind. I don't know if Japan will be. I don't actually know how many they ordered. They didn't say that. But this is their plan. So like by June, they like to have all these locations and a bunch of people vaccinated. So that's interesting. We'll keep that in mind and definitely follow the news and then the latest about that. And hopefully things go well.
I agree. Hopefully, we see a positive trend.
Yeah. So the latest news about our own Japanese study habits, because I feel like we always are talking about coronavirus. I think about,
We'll try to get some more fun or interesting news bits alongside.
I would love to have more silly
more lighthearted
actor anime news or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't really watch a ton of anime right now, but it'd be fun to kind of watch more anime. It'd be fun to watch anime together too, right? Like take a show that's a sizable, or not sizable, but maybe only a couple seasons.
That's not like 800 episodes long.
Not like One Piece. Not like Pokemon. Not those long shows, Bleach or whatever. Take a show that's really, really short, and then maybe there's a couple websites, right, that we can watch it together. It'd be actually kind of cool to like watch it with other fans too, or like other people listening to the podcast. We can all like try to watch it without subtitles and try to understand what's going on.
That'd be nice.
That'd be a fun thing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So then we can also like talk about. Yeah. So we're trying to, start a Discord, and so we're gradually seeing that and try to tweak that so that we can have people join and then study with us.
We want to build a little community to make this more fun.
For sure. Yeah. And as far as like the news segment is concerned too, at the beginning of the podcast, we can start talking about more of like pop culture, recent games too that have been released, which I would love to do too, is like a game segment, because I'm sure a lot of people who are studying Japanese are also gamers and interested in that. So like I don't know if you have anything at the top of your mind that you want to say about new Nintendo games or like JRPGs or whatever, but feel free to interject, Khalil, at any time and say like, I'm super excited about this.
Oh, well, I am super excited about Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah, when is that coming out? There's nothing on that. I'm excited about that too.
I don't think anytime soon, but I'm just excited for that. There's also a new, not new. It's a remake of an old game that I really like called Nier Replicate. That's coming out in a month or two. Is
that coming out on Switch or?
I don't know. I don't think
PlayStation?
So. I feel like it's not. PlayStation and I believe PC as well. Could be wrong.
Cool.
I'm just excited.
I've been thinking about getting a PlayStation. I don't know.
The 5? I don't
the 5.
even know if you could if you wanted.
Well, if not the 5, the 4. But I'm not sure. But
you must play Bloodborne. You have to, Patrick. It's so amazing. Yeah. That is one of my favorite games of all time, I would say.
Yeah. And then like Last of Us. I don't know. I know there was some like hubbub about the second one, but I definitely want to at least play the first one.
There you go. I've heard good things. It doesn't seem like my kind of game though, but I understand.
Yeah. Journey, Spider-Man. Not really. I know people like Spider-Man, but I'm not like super super into it. More of just like the indie games. There's a bunch of really cool indie games on PlayStation, like the new what is it called? Hyper Light Drifter. Heart Machine is making that new game, which I forgot the name of, but that game looks really cool. It's going to be on PlayStation.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be on PC too, though. I think they're releasing it both on.
I don't see why not, considering
PlayStation.
Hyper Light Drifter was.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it is a PlayStation exclusive, but it's not going to be on.
Oh,
Xbox.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah, it's actually excited about that too. Okay, so moving on, because we don't have anything specific, we're just talking like general gaming news.
Yeah.
What is some of your latest news about your own study habits, Khalil? And
so I've been,
go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been doing a couple things. More so on the planning side. I mean, of course, I'll still do my daily lessons on Wanekani. I like to sit down on my computer and do it. I'll also do it on my phone if I'm out and about, which, you know, happens often. But I
You do it
kind
on
of
your
like to get into
computer.
that mindset. Yeah, just having just that going on kind of helps, and typing it out is a little easier. I end up getting a lot of misspellings with my autocorrect on the app.
You can turn that
So
off, I think. You can
I
turn
think
that.
so.
Yeah.
I use it for like other things too, so I don't want to have to turn it off.
No,
And,
no, no. I mean, you can turn it off in the flaming dirtles. There's like a bunch of settings and stuff that you can
oh,
make
okay.
it so that it doesn't do that. It'll like disable that. You have to read the
Hmm.
instructions because it has a bunch of different configurations for different keyboards and stuff.
Okay, I'll
Um,
look into that then.
yeah, then make sure you're also adding the buttons for the autocorrect. Sorry, not autocorrect. The skip, like
Yes.
incorrect answer. Skip if it's correct, and then if it's incorrect, it'll like pause for a second so you can.
Yeah, I have that setting
Okay,
turned on. I found
cool.
that it was quite annoying when it just said I was wrong and moved on. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was frustrating to me too.
Hmm. So yeah, in addition to that, I've been trying to kind of gather the knowledge I need to start writing my own like sentences or just random little blips. Trying to put all the pieces I have together in a coherent way. I feel like I'm on the cusp of getting there to really making use of all the words I've been learning from
So
Wanikani.
what does that mean though when you say that you're preparing and stuff?
So the preparing part is coming up with more ways to kind of engage with the content. For example, which we'll get to a little later, I found this website that just has goofy little, really easy to read stories. So I've been trying to read
Mm,
those kind of out loud to myself and practice the flow because um, this kind of goes on to what we were talking about the last time with reading hiragana. You know, given that they're beginner level, they're all in hiragana, so it's
yeah.
kind of hard to read it out, even though the vocabulary is pretty simple. And this particular site I was looking at has like a little dictionary. It still kind of is it's not it's not really smooth because you know I'm sounding have to kind of sound out each thing unless I see like a super common word.
Does it?
Um,
I'm sure we'll get to it later too, but I was just curious if it was using katakana as well, or was it only hiragana?
there actually is no katakana.
That sounds really hard to read. Like if there's no separation at all.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some English words in there, so like there's just English words, and then so you have to kind of
oh,
sound it out the phonetically, like as a you know as you would with
you mean
exactly the same word.
romaji? Like it's written with.
No, it's just straight up written in English.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, it's strange. It's really
Uh,
weird. Yeah, I'll talk more about the website a little later.
cool.
But yeah, I've been looking at that. I want to get I've been looking at some potential manga to buy because I like reading manga still. Um, I wanted to buy some untranslated copies to read through, and so I was
Yeah.
looking at like um, super simple readings. So we were also talking about this last time with all the fantasy words. So something without, you know, all like these magic systems or fantasy words. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah,
that's
a
the
lot
thing
of
though. Is like the interesting stuff is that like
yeah.
the stuff that you actually want to read is typically, at least for me, probably for you
Mhm.
too, like fantasy words or
Yeah,
like
I do like that, but I
Renkin Jutsushi, which is like alchemist.
okay, that's
Like
okay. Yeah.
what?
So I mean,
You'd
I guess I
never know
would
that. You
learn a
said
lot of random, interesting words
yeah.
that way, but I was looking more down like the slice of life comedy route. So
Ah, that's a good
I do
one.
find those
Yeah.
interesting too. So yeah, so I'm kind of looking at that. I want to kind of find something to pick up and kind of read
Okay, so
through that.
I have a book which I hopefully can find right now quickly. But there's a book that I kind of want to send you almost because it would be perfect. Um, it's about some guy who was a salaryman and he became homeless voluntarily. Uh, pretty interesting. It's a manga. This is not it. This is I think this is the something fantastical beasts book. Yeah. But if I find it, I want
we
to
talked
send
about
it to
that
you.
on the
Yeah. Yeah. If I find it, I definitely want to send it to you. Oh, interesting. I have a bunch of like pits. I have a bunch of Norwegian books in here too that I actually haven't read yet. Interesting. But go ahead, continue. Go ahead, continue. You froze. You good?
I know. Yeah. Sorry, I was having a little issue for some reason. But yeah, I would like to kind of find a couple things to pick up and read on the side, just to get used to seeing the more common way Japanese is written. Because some of the ones I was looking at, a lot have furigana over the kanji, so I think it'd be a very useful experience. Plus, it would just get me used to engaging with the media more, and it would be motivating because I'll be able to understand what I want to read. So, and from my understanding, you are also reading something, a novel, right?
Yes, I am reading a novel right now. It's called Zero Ika no Shi. So the death below zero.
Wow.
It's a mystery book. It's like a murder mystery. Funny enough, yeah. Funny enough, it's set in Wyoming, I think. It's set around the Black Hills.
Interesting.
But it's in the U.S. and it's actually it's a book that it was written by an American author. Don't remember who, because I'm only a couple of chapters in, but it is interesting so far. It's just kind of weird to be reading a book about the U.S. in Japanese.
Yeah.
And like all of their names are in like in katakana and in Japanese, like Masharu and Shirubiya and then like Black SUV. So like it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, like I don't know if I'll actually finish it, but I kind of want to, just as like a challenge. It's just like not. I kind of want to read books that are more historical and about the world, or Japanese, or sorry, Japan, or more philosophical, or like legend kind of thing, like like the Greek philosophers, stuff like that in Japanese. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a really interesting challenge, reading a philosophy book.
For sure, yeah.
Those tend to use some
modern.
Yeah, tend to use vocabulary that even in English, I'm just like, what?
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, what made you pick up that book?
Well, I went to a bookstore as I normally do when I go to Japan, and I just saw it and I was like, that looks interesting. Below Zero Death, like Death Below Zero. I'm gonna buy that book just because I wanted like more of a mystery book because I was reading a lot of them at the time. So I picked that up. I have a bunch of different novels that I haven't read quite yet. I've read like a couple chapters and I'm like, don't know if I'm super interested in this. I also didn't understand a lot of kanji like I do now.
Yeah.
So
it's so hard.
So it's actually going really pretty smoothly. It's mostly just time for me.
Gotcha.
Like anything. But I want to show you this book that I might send you because I never read it. But it's kind of similar to the other book that you were reading. It's called Nazo Nazo.
Nazo.
Like riddle. Nazo is riddle. So it's a riddle book.
Okay.
But it has like it's a manga kind of thing. So if I open it up for people listening, if I open it up, kind of like definitely looks like Pokemon. And then there's a bunch of different
Pokemon and Neopets.
Yeah. And then this looks like a sort of slice of life thing.
Oh yeah, we got some kids in their gym outfits playing with the
dodgeball. 体育の時間はドッジボール? And they're playing dodgeball and they're asking a bunch of like quiz questions and stuff. And then there's answers actually on the bottom. It's actually kind of interesting. So I would think I'll send this to you just because there's furigana and next to every kanji.
Nice.
Very, 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 very colorful. lots of Pokemon things.
It is
everywhere.
very colorful. That's surprising.
It's crazy. The amount of work that went into the drawings in this book is crazy.
Yeah, I like how a lot of the pages are set up like scenes, full page scene or 2-page spread scene. That's
Yeah,
neat.
they're just a scene and then like a bunch of kids asking each other like riddles. So nazo nazo, and then there's asobo kakui nazo nazo sanyon nensei. So for 3rd and 4th graders.
Oh, nice. I think that's a little too above me right now, Patrick.
No. I think you have. I think you're able to get this because, again, the furigana. There's a bunch of different simple kanji that you're learning now, and that you're going to understand more and more as you go along. So I think this is a good one. I'll probably send this to you.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to compile a bunch of these books. But yeah, I'm reading Zero Ikanoshi, and that's coming along. I need more time to actually spend reading, but I wanted to at least spend a couple minutes every night before I go to bed reading it.
That's good.
Which has been okay. Like I want to be more consistent than like try to make time. I'd rather just do it every day for 10 minutes. And then if I have a little bit more time, then I'll read a little bit more than 10 minutes, but I'm not going to force myself to read an hour every day. Like that's not realistic. So just like my other books too, even in English, sometimes I'll be like, I want to read books today, and I have no time. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then the next day I might have a little bit more time. I'm like, okay, I really want to read that book. And then I'll read it. And I'm not putting any like goal on myself to read it or not. I'm just like, if I'm interested in it, I'll read it. So I want to do the same thing for this. Except for this, I want to try to at least read like a couple minutes per day.
I think it's a good strategy. Because like at least you'll be making progress on it.
Yeah.
Slower.
And I don't feel like it's forced. Like even the other day, I'm like, I just don't really want to read this right now. Because it was late.
10 minutes.
It was late. Like it was really late, way past my bedtime, quote unquote. Like I had to wake up early for work. So I was just like, okay, I'll read a page or two. And then I read it. I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting. And then Judy's right next to me, so I'm like, do you say this? And then she's like, yeah, we say that. I was like, what does that mean? Like nuance? I think it means this. And she's like, yeah, it means that. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's just a lot of things that are written here are like, I understand the kanji meaning, but when you put them together, it's like quietly say something. It's like, oh, okay. I kind of understand what that means, but it's sort of something that you only write. You don't really say that. There's a lot of things like that. Like she whispered quietly. Like you're not going to say that to other person. She like, you don't really say that in speech. There's descriptive words that you use in a book, in English too, in any language.
Yeah.
That you don't really say.
You wouldn't say it, yeah.
You would actually do it, right?
Yes.
You would do it. Like
that's the difference there.
If somebody was whispering and then I say, oh, she was like, I would actually whisper to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or
but like if I described what just happened to somebody else, I'd be like, oh, you just whispered quietly to me.
If you wrote it down, right? Yeah. So like the writing art form, just like English, Japanese is completely different. So like it's helpful to get that different side of the language too, because it definitely affects how you speak, and it just helps with your vocabulary. But it's also just like helping you understand, like be more fluent in the language itself too, because you're never going to use that in conversation. Like there's a ton of stuff that I'm reading that I'll never use in conversation, but at least helps me understand that you can also say it like this. Like there's a bunch of different ways to say the same thing. So that's been fun.
It's very interesting. It's nice to see those kind of parallels across languages. Yeah,
like I mean, humans have to explain ourselves. We want to explain ourselves in very, very similar ways, right? Like we're all humans, so people just have a different way of doing it. Like one thing I love about Japanese is that you don't have to be super specific all the time. Like one thing that's really hard for Japanese people to when they're learning English is like the and a. Those articles are really hard because the is like one thing, right? Like how would you explain that to somebody who's a foreign
like what the means?
Person learning English. Yeah. What the or a, when do you use it? What are the rules? It's hard.
Yeah, they're pretty complicated for being so simple.
Yeah, and they're using language in our daily conversation and reading and writing all the time. And so that's the number one question Judy asks me all the time. It's like, is it the or is it a or do you add an S here? And then I have to think about it for a second. I'm like,
Yeah.
the I'm trying to remember an example that she was talking about her grandma. Her grandma, the it's not coming to me, but she's saying something about like the she has the one thing she was trying to do is like she has room in her heart or something like that. She's trying to say that she's like she has a bunch of rooms in her heart for different people. And she was literally like showing me with her hands. She was showing me like a box and a box and a box and a box. And she's like, my grandma has a bunch of rooms in her heart for people. And I was like, well, we actually say something similar. We say she has a lot of room in her heart for new people. Like she has room in her heart. That like we say that. That's sort of similar. But she was trying to say that and directly translated from Japanese. So it's like a bunch of room. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting.
That's fun.
Because we kind of say the same thing.
Little apartment complex in the heart.
And then I was saying like, I was asking her, can you say, like, おばあちゃんの心の中に、おばあちゃんの心の中にスペースがある。Like, あるか? Or, well, I thought I was making a question, but like, I was like, can you say that? Like, おばあちゃんの心の中にスペースがあるって聞ける? And then she said, yeah, you can say that too. And I was like, oh. Or 言える? And then she's like, yep. So that was interesting that you can say exactly the same thing that we say in English all the time in Japanese and it still makes sense. But she was trying to say it in a different way. And she'll try to do that all the time. And I'll try to do that too. Like try to make something that you say in Japanese, directly translate it to English. And sometimes it sounds really fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we say in English that don't really make any sense in Japanese at all.
Yeah. I really like when things like that match up one-to-one. It's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's like a human, it's almost like a human thing that we all understand no matter what language you translate it in. One thing that I just thought of right now, I wonder if this will work in Japanese. I don't think it does. I have to ask Judy, but like we say the short end of the stick. There's a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he got the short end of the stick. And there's history behind that thing. There's, there's like people drawing sticks and whoever got the short end of the stick is the one who has to go do the thing that nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like it's like kind of a raffle. But that's a cultural kind of raffle, right? And I don't know if they would even know what that is. Like she probably doesn't really even know what that means. But we say that all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that. I would love to actually make that a segment too. Like things that I realized recently that we say that the Japanese people don't understand or vice versa.
Yeah, that would be fun too. I think that is a good idea.
So anyways, moving on to the next segment because my timer just went off. So we're running out of time. Favorite Japanese word?
Ooh, so I haven't been digging through the dictionary too much lately, but there's a fun word.
Who does?
Yeah, right. That Wanikani has taught me, and it is the kanji for G, which it looks like so it's made of two radicals. It's pretty simple. It's the roof radical and the child radical below it. And even though, when I first learned this word, I learned it wrong. I thought it meant like a letter, like a handwritten letter to somebody.
Oh, interesting. Tegami.
Yeah, tegami. Yeah. But it means letter as in like character letter.
Character.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yep. It also means like handwriting. So in a way, like you could say like あなたの字が綺麗. Like your handwriting is pretty. Like 手書きも言う. So 手書き is like handwriting. So literally hand 書き writing 書く.
Yeah.
So the handwriting, you also say that too. But when you're talking about somebody else's handwriting that's like in front of you and you're looking at it, like Judy says that all the time. Like Madison, my little sister, she's like, Madison no ji ga kirei.
Okay.
And then like I'll say like 僕の字がすごい汚い and she'll be like, yep.
Yep.
So you also say G for handwriting.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
It's like how your handwriting characters look. G.
Okay. That actually helps too.
I didn't know
because
that until Judy said
it was
that, you
used
know.
in that context. Yeah, so the mnemonic really stuck out to me just because it was so simple but very descriptive and interesting. It was so we have the roof and the child on the roof, and they are holding out a letter. So now this
that's
is
the problem.
that was the problem,
Yeah.
but now I
Yeah.
fixed that. It's just a letter J, right?
Yeah.
So the child's holding a letter J up into the night sky for Jesus. And that's how you remember the pronunciation for G.
Okay. That
so
actually
I think that's
is
just a fun one.
So when you get it right, like in your head, when you get the image right in your head, it's funny and it's memorable and it makes sense.
It is funny. Yeah, it's very funny.
It makes sense. But when you just think of like the normal logical person like you and me will think of the letter, and that's a problem because it's the same word. It's a homonym, but it's not the same thing. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I kind of wish that the meaning they had was like character instead or something.
Or better yet, if people on WaniKani could like submit their drawings for the mnemonic.
Oh, that would be amazing. Can you imagine all the ridiculous things you would see on there?
I would love that, honestly. Or even if on like on the or even if on the website you could submit. Maybe this is a tool that we can use that we can create and then like add as a WaniKani thing. Like allow the ability in an app or maybe as a browser extension or something like that for you to draw the scene that it's describing for the mnemonic, and then also for that word like pull it in. So anybody who drew anything, that would actually be a terrible idea. We need to have like a flag feature for people's terrible drawings. But I think WaniKani for WaniKani community in general, like it's pretty tame. It's pretty good. But when you allow people to draw anything,
oh yeah, there's always a potential for disaster.
Yes, but
that's amazing.
I think that would be
and it would be so helpful too. Because picturing an image, even because some people can't have a hard time picturing images, you can still kind of remember the feeling a picture gives you, and I think that is a little bit stronger than trying to remember a whole scenario.
The problem is like, again, there's just so many kanji. So we're expecting somebody to draw something that's like that is detailed enough for you to understand what was going on, but for every kanji that
that's why it'd be more of a community-based thing where people
like
just
crowdsourcing
their own, and then
I'm sure there are tons of people who are good at drawing like you who would want to just for fun. Like there's a funny mnemonic that Jared created and like wants to draw something out of it. So I'll have to think about that.
I'll try doing that.
Yeah, I have to think about that.
Just sending to you or something that then we can.
I have to think about that as like an app idea or like an add-on idea. That'd be actually really interesting.
I think people would enjoy that.
I think so too. But I think the problem would be though is like you're looking at the kanji, right, and you're trying to figure out what the radicals mean, and then you're trying to piece together the mnemonic through the radicals, right? Because that's kind of how WaniKani does it.
That's part of the fun, though. It's almost like a visual puzzle in a way.
Yeah, but I think that so the image would have to show up when you with the answer if you didn't know, right? Just as like a funny thing to be memorable. But I think it could be really useful for sure.
Yeah. So what kind of words are you digging lately?
Yeah. So one of the words that I learned that I didn't know before reading my novel was sasayaku. I'd never heard that before, but it just means to whisper.
Oh.
So, like, sasayaita, sasayaita, sasayaita. I just see that like, every other line. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? Like everybody's. I knew it meant something with regards to speech. It's just a more descriptive, like whisper. It's a more descriptive way to say said quietly. And there's a bunch of those we use in English in novels and stuff like that. But it'd be like brackets for quotes and then like sasayaita. And I was like, that probably means shout or something, but I don't know. She was
Some
talking
kind of
to, like,
modified
her-
way of speaking. Yeah.
Modified way of speaking, yeah. So it means to whisper.
Cool.
The other word I learned,
Sasayaku.
yeah, sasayaku, and then there's the other one which is kuroto, which is a weird reading, but
It is, yeah.
the kanji means mysterious person. So the mysterious
Oh.
person is the expert, is like the general meaning. This is just a weird word. Like Judy didn't. She says we don't use this at all. So I don't know. I don't know if this is like an older text or in some other novels or something like that. Judy doesn't really read a lot of novels, so I mean, like somebody who doesn't read a lot of novels in English too, like they might not exactly know the meaning, but they can understand it in context.
Yeah.
The book.
I mean, that makes sense. Just given the way the word is structured.
Yeah. So it means expert, but the other meaning for this, apparently in the dictionary at least, is geisha. So somebody who's like a red light district lady,
Wait, that's the same spelling for it?
otherwise known as prostitute. It's an alternate meaning.
Is that the same spelling?
An alternate I'll show you the dictionary entry. Ready? This is in the JED. It says expert, professional, master, connoisseur. And then the second meaning is women in the nightlife business, geisha, and prostitutes. So
that's quite
I guess
broad.
I guess you could consider a prostitute an expert.
Yes, yeah.
Or a geisha. So that's another meaning, which I found really interesting, and then had to I had to point that out. So yeah, the next segment is our wall of shame words. Khalil?
All right, so
you're doing better on your wall of shame words than me.
Yeah, yours are harder though. So my first one is still Nama again. I think it's going up now, at 71%. And I think it's just I have to build up the terrible damage that was done to
You said that you were getting it wrong because you were using the onyomi?
Yeah. And
why would that give you, again, like why would that?
Yeah, sometimes it actually gives me the wrong answer. Other times it does a shaky thing where it says, oh, we're looking for this reading instead. But for some reason, giving it the, what was it, onyomi? Giving it the onyomi, it hates doing that. But if I gave it kunyomi and it's asking for onyomi, it's fine with that. It just tells me.
So do you have the setting on where if you get it wrong, then it will pause for a second and let you ignore it or correct it? Or sorry, ignore it or continue with the mistake? Because if you're using it on your browser, it's not going to have that by default, right? Because it's just extra JavaScript. So you have to install a user script add-on for that. I think it's called wanikani ignore. So if you're doing this on your browser, definitely go look up the user script wanikani add-on called ignore incorrect answer. I think something like that. Ignore mistake, and then that's definitely use that, because I mean I've had that happen all the time. It's just stupid. Like, you know the reading, you know the meaning, and you're just taking more time to learn that word than you actually need.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, like,
that sounds helpful.
It makes sense for certain things. You just have to be honest with yourself. And oftentimes I like, through compulsiveness, I'll just like ignore it and then continue. And I'm like, oh, why did I do that? I actually really wanted to learn that. The thing is, like, if you're like, I didn't know that. Why did I say that was? Why did I skip that? Later, before you burn a word, you know how it comes back to you, and it'll be like a month later or something like that, and it'll come back to you, and then you'll most likely forget if you've been skipping it. So in that case, it'll just go back into your review queue. So as long as you're honest with yourself most of the time, you'll properly learn it. So you just have to be careful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the second word, which is a newer kanji I learned, was goal. I'm at 83%, which is not bad, and it means number. So it's almost like a counterpart to G for letter, right? That'd be a
Yeah,
correct way
kind
to put
of.
it.
Yeah, it's like it's often used on um, next to like a real letter, or sorry, next to a real number. So like for example, um, the train car, like the train car in the subway or just a regular train car, will have like goal, like five.
Mhm.
Or I'll say different, so it's not confusing. I'll say like sang, so three, sang gosha, so
Mhm.
three, like the third numbered car.
I
So
see.
sang gosha. So it'll be next to like a regular number
Number.
that we
So it's more
understand,
like,
digit.
is it similar to like the pound sign we use for like, oh, numbers
Yeah,
six or something,
yeah. No, that's a really good
or
comparison.
like,
Yeah. That's a good parallel.
would you also use it for like explaining like floors of like a building or something, or is that different?
That's a different counter. So goal is not really a
Okay.
counter. It's more of like it's more like the pound sign kind of. Yeah.
So you
The
would use a counter for floor number?
yes, it's kai.
Interesting.
So san kai, yon
Okay.
kai. That's another hard thing about learning Japanese is there's a lot of different counters for everything.
The counters, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So
So
the keeping
nama
up
and goal.
phonetics would be difficult. Yeah, nama and go. I don't think it's mentioned the first definition, but it means like fresh or raw in this context.
Ah,
Raw. What
raw
about you?
raw
What you got going
numbers.
on? Raw numbers.
I got again Hinge. That's I haven't seen it this week,
Hmm.
but it's still 66%. Um, Hinge is hard for me to understand. It has the map, the treasure, and then the tree. So reading left to right would be the tree, and then the map treasure thing. Um, and I don't know why I keep forgetting that it's Hinge. It's easy for me to remember that the reading, but the meaning is hard for me to understand or remember.
Oh, I see.
Um,
I mean that enclosure kind of around the treasure looks kind of like a hinge, right? If you ignore everything else.
sort of. That's the thing too, is that I'm at the point where I don't really remember the mnemonics most of the time.
Hmm.
Because a lot of them are like, I think Jared or whoever was writing the mnemonics near the end was just like so sick of writing them. And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll have bouts of inspiration, and then it'll be really funny and like super memorable. But most of the time, it's just like, there's a tree and there's a treasure. Remember, you have to hinge around to the right or whatever to get to the treasure. It's
Oh,
like that's
yeah.
so hard to remember.
Those ones are hard to remember anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes I'll make up my own, but again, the app I'm using now, I can't add my own reading notes. So I just have to kind of
Oh,
do my
yeah.
best to remember that. So
Mhm.
yeah, hinge. And the next one is pavement. The reason it's weird for me is the first kanji is shop, and the next kanji is coating or attire. And it's like
What
the
was the word?
shop, wholesale, wholesale. So wholesale. So it's a pavement is the meaning, like roadway
Oh.
or pavement.
Hmm.
So and the first kanji again is shop, and the second one is coating or exterior, like attire, exterior. And so shop exterior, you think of that, you're like, oh, I don't know, the outside of the shop, the that's the image you get, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, it's pavement. So I have no idea. And the
Interesting.
mnemonic is sort of helpful. It's like you have to use the pavement to get to the shop or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
But so I mean yeah. So that's what's kind of hard for me. That's a new word too. I just learned that a couple days ago. So that's
Nice.
probably why it's 50%. Just learned it.
Hmm.
Moving on. Those are a wall of shame. Don't want to talk about it anymore. It's so embarrassing.
It's so shameful. We just can't show our faces anymore.
Yeah. Recommendations for tools and podcasts and content and blah, 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 blah. I have one that I just installed actually before this because I realized I didn't have it installed. I've used it in the past. It's called Rikai-chan on Chrome, and on Firefox it's called Rikai Champ. Rikai means to comprehend, to understand, and so it's a play on words there, and it's really useful for hovering over words to look up the meaning. Yeah, so it'll show you the reading and then the meaning, and then a bunch of different alternative meanings and readings. So if you're ever like browsing around looking at news articles and stuff, it's really useful because there's a bunch of hard words in news articles for sure. Found it very useful. Recommend it. Also,
nice.
Plug.
I'll have to check that out.
Plug. I don't know if it's still working, but I made a browser extension a couple of years ago for Wanikani that allows you to. It's actually not a browser extension; it's a user script. So you have to install it using a user script manager, like Grease Monkey or Tamper Monkey. It's called Wanikani tab notifications, and it'll show you when you have reviews, and it'll like blink, and it'll show you the number of reviews that you have.
That's cool.
Made it a couple years ago. Don't worry if you don't like it. If you do like it, sweet. Drop me a couple $100 in my Patreon. I don't have a Patreon.
Just a few hundred, yeah.
Yeah, so that I would definitely recommend Rikai-chan or Rikai Champ as a browser extension. You got any recommendations? Some call outs, some shout outs?
Well, obviously, we got the beautiful crab alligator Wanikani, but there's also the alligator crab, or did I mix that up again? Wanikani, alligator crab. Wait,
Wani, right?
alligator crab.
Yeah. Well, alligator crab is Wanikani.
Yeah, so crab alligator.
It's the one that you recommended.
Kaniwani, yeah.
So that's the one you're recommending.
Yeah, I find that to be the most so okay. It's super difficult for me, but I think it's useful because of how much it makes my brain's gears go.
So explain it first.
Yeah. So as we know, the way Wanikani works is we are given a kanji, or we're just giving a vocabulary word in Japanese, and we are supposed to give sorry, I already mixed that up. So you're given it teaches you a couple words in your lessons, and then for the reviews that pop up in different intervals, depending on how much progress you've made on them, it gives you a word, and you're supposed to word in Japanese, and you give it the meaning in English, right?
In Wanikani?
Yeah.
So I think everybody knows what Wanikani is.
Did I just say that in the same way again? Why am I so confused?
So basically, yeah. So Wanikani, kanji learning application. Also with vocabulary. It's all geared for English speakers to learn Japanese. All the meanings and everything are helpful English words around that. Kaniwani is the opposite. So now you're trying to speak. You have an English word prompted to you, right? And you have to think of the Japanese word that is the same meaning as that. Correct?
Yes. Yes. It gives you the meanings. The meanings.
It gives you the meanings, and so it's the opposite.
Yeah.
And so you have to use your brain in a different way and say, "Oh, okay. So the meaning, say, textbook." Now I have to think of what the Japanese word for textbook is.
Yeah, so it's more focused on
speaking. It's kind of like helpful for speaking, especially if you're trying to remember the word for something and you want to use it. It's kind of helpful for that because you have to you have to have good recall.
Yes.
The only thing that I would have trouble with about that is that there are many different ways to say things.
Yes.
And just because you forget the word to something doesn't mean that you can't have a conversation, because you can always say it a different way. So I would encourage people to do that, to try to say things a different way. Like describe what a baseball cap is without knowing the word for baseball cap. Like you can just say hat with a flat part in the front. Like you can say that. Or you could say, I know the word for baseball, so I'll say like baseball hat, like yakyū no boshi. I can say that, and then they go, "Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about." But
yes,
really,
that's really
they say cap,
Siapu.
yeah, cap, or
So that's
you know,
specifically for like a baseball hat.
I think so. Yeah. I might be wrong there, but I'm just giving some example that I pulled out of my butt.
Yeah, it's a good one, I think.
Yeah, so you can go around the. I do this a lot when I'm speaking in Japan because I don't have a huge vocabulary base. But I'll try to like say something around that explains what I'm talking about, and often they'll just give me the word for me, and then I'll start using it. So like
there you go. That's really effective too.
Yeah, so that's a way to like not look it up on my phone, but get them to say the word for me, and then I can use that to continue my conversation. And then
that's definitely. What? Just got cut off for a little bit. It was weird.
Yeah, you're back. I can hear you.
Yeah, that's super useful. Okay, good. That's super useful for conversation. Yeah, being able to describe that. So just having basic descriptor words is very useful.
Descriptor words and grammar.
And communicating and gaining more common.
Yeah, like saying things like front and side, like mae and yoko and ushiro, and then also grammar words like ni, or grammar particles like ni and the naka ni, like inside of, and then stuff like that, like de, like te de with your hand, skao, use, stuff like that is really helpful to describe what you're talking about. But you don't need to know what everything is. Yeah. So that's really helpful for speaking. But for recall and for just like building vocabulary in general, which is not it's not necessary at all for conversation. But if you want to be like a scholar, then sure. it's really useful. But I would like encourage people to, you don't need that to get started. So don't really worry too much, and don't be super hard on yourself about kaniwani, about recall. Don't really be super worried about trying to remember the words for everything. Get better at getting around the word that you don't remember. Just like in English, right? Like
there's always alternate paths. Yeah,
there's always alternate paths. Like I'll do that too. I forget words in English all the time, and I'll say, oh, the thing that you use when you're gardening, it's small. It's like a little shovel. Oh, a trowel. Okay. Oh. I might remember. Somebody else will say like a shovel, trowel, and then I'll go, yeah, that one. And then I'll say,
super common occurrence too.
Yeah, I was using my trowel. It's the same exact thing. Like just do the same thing in Japanese. Do the same thing in any other language you're learning. It's really normal, and don't be hard on yourself for not remembering. It's just like we don't have picture perfect memory, most of us, All right, cool. So our next segment before we go on to our goals and then end this podcast is storytelling. So Khalil, take us away.
Well, it might take me a bit to go through. So it's like I mentioned earlier, this is just like a collection of random stories. I believe the person who made this website is a teacher in Japan. So they come up with little stories for their students.
And they're not just stories.
Oh, they're
not just any story.
I gotta say.
What makes them special?
So the name of the website is just called Easy Japanese Stories. I literally only looked at one thing, so that's just a disclaimer. I don't know anything else that's on there except this one story, but I want to read it, and I'm gonna wait for the title until the end. I mean, it'll become pretty apparent. So I'm about to struggle through this.
So is that the spoiler of the title?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It'll give you too good of an idea already.
I gotcha.
All right.
I'm listening.
かわいい男の子がいました。かわいい男の子の名前はウィル・スミスです。ウィル・スミスは奥さんが欲しかったですが、かわいい奥さんは欲しくなかったです。ウィル・スミスは 青い奥さんが欲しかったです。
What?
だから、ウィル・スミスはパンドラに行きました。でも、でも、パンドラの女の子は黄色いかったです。Oh,
Wait, where? Like, where? Just in general? Just in generally? But continue.
Oh, I read that wrong. Pandora no. Oh yeah, I guess just in general. Pandora no. 女の子は黄色いかったです。
Oh, kirogata. Okay.
Yeah, 黄色いかったです。Yellow, right?
Yep. I thought you said hirokata, like wide. It's like just wide in general. Wide in general. Like where was she wide?
Just built like a monitor, I guess. Where was I? Okay.
Off to a good start.
Yeah, right. Wiru Smith はスマーフビレッジに行きました。スマーフビレッジにWhoa. I forgot about this part. シュレクがいました。
Oh no.
ウィル・スミスはシュレクが好きですが、シュレクは緑です。Oh. パパスマスもスマスビレッジにいました。パパスマスは青いです。だからウィル・スミスはパパスミスが好きでした。でもパパスミスはウィル・スミスが好きじゃありません。悲しい。Okay, スマフエットに私は青い奥さんが欲しいです。私はスマス。
He's got a strong like type. He's got a strong fetish here.
Yeah, for real. Wait, where was I? 私はスマフエットはごめん、私は男の人です。
That's good to know.
そうました。ウィル・スミスは嬉しくなかったです。
This is so primal. He's like blue.
Right.
Blue.
ウィル・スミスは大丈夫です。私はスマフェットを愛しています。愛していますよ。愛していましょう。
愛してますよ maybe.
愛してますよと言いました。でも
That was fast.
Yeah. So hard.
Smafu.
スマフェットは私のお父さんはダノスです。だからウィル・スミスは苦しますと言いました。でもシュレクはスマフェットを食べました。だからシュレクは青くなりません。青くなりました。
青くなりました。
シュレクはウィル・スミスの青い奥さんになりました。
This is definitely written by like a foreign English teacher in Japan or something.
There's no doubt.
That's crazy.
A really riveting story.
That was also like the Shrek thing being a meme. That was definitely written by somebody who's not Japanese.
That's definitely an American meme right there. There's no way around that. And
That's
the little
crazy.
cameo of Thanos.
The little cameo of Thanos. That was really disturbing.
Yeah, but I learned the word yellow and wife from that story.
Oh, Tsumaya. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, so I assume all the stories on the website are like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I knew it was gonna get good when he said he wanted to go to Pandora. It's like, oh jeez. He's looking for a wife, but he wants a blue wife. Let's go to Pandora.
Only a blue wife.
And the Smurfs, jeez.
Yeah.
Those are hard
They're
to say
strange.
too. Like in Japanese, it's really hard to say
Mhm.
words like Smurf in names in general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Names, they
And then
really change.
katakana, like, yeah, those words are hard. The foreign words are hard in Japanese for me to say. At least it's easy for them to say it their way. Obviously, to
Mhm.
say it our way is really hard for them. So it's just like us in speaking. That we have, we have like a lot of French words in English. We have a lot of
Mhm.
like German words and stuff, and then
We're all stealing from everyone. Everyone's stealing from everyone.
yeah, but we say it totally wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We steal it and butcher it quite a bit.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like, it's fine. Everybody understands us, and it's just become part of our language. Those
Mhm.
loan words. It's the same thing in Japanese, obviously, but there's a lot more loan words. I think I would think, I don't know, in Japanese it feels like there's a lot that are like weird. They don't even make any sense in that context at all. At least the loan words that we borrow in English, for the most part, they seem like they're a similar meaning, but
Yeah.
or the same meaning, but we just butcher the pronunciation. In Japanese, it's like a completely different meaning, except for things like
Interesting.
pan, which is bread. Like that's
Aw.
the same in many different languages.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. That was a fun story. Thank you for sharing.
Of course, I'll find something more, a little less insane. Maybe.
With
Maybe
more or less Shrek.
more. Well, definitely less because that's always a red flag when you see that in fan fiction or whatever.
Shrek, yeah, it's gonna get naughty really quickly.
Yes.
Jeez. He ate the Smurf and became blue,
Mhm.
and therefore both Smiths wanted him as a wife.
Exactly.
Wanted him as a wife. Okay.
So a little. I'm gonna say he's a little racist in that story, but
Yeah, only looking at the exterior.
only blue people.
Only blue people. Aren't we all?
All right.
Everybody who's watched Avatar wanted to be a blue person for a little bit.
True.
Especially those who watched it in
employees
3D.
of the Eiffel 65 or whatever.
All right, so the next thing we can do, we can skip it if we want to, is a conversation practice.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do it. Let's do a small one. So I have one for you. I have an idea for you.
Yeah, let's just do a short one.
So okay, here we go.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say the first line, and then we can continue the conversation. And you're gonna need to ask questions, and I'll give you a hint. You have to guess who I am. So 誰でしょう?
Okay.
誰でしょう?
Oh.
俺が
誰でしょ
いつも工事してて、もうすごい忙しいんで、いつも友達に連絡したいんだけど、忘れててしないんで、いつも文句とか作ったりする。誰でしょ
う? Wow. I don't think I got anything out of that really.
う? OK、もう一回
I
ね。
didn't understand most of it.
もう一回、
Yeah.
もう一回。
はい
じゃあ、ちょっと他の言い方で、
Okay.
他の言い方で言ってみます。俺が仕事で工事をやります。工事をやります。家とかを作ったりする。家とかを作ったりする仕事です。それでいつも遅く帰って時間があんまない習慣があります。
習慣意味、意味は何ですか？
習慣の意味は、だいたいやること。毎日ぐらいのやること。
毎日ぐらい意味は何ですか？
毎日、だいたい毎日だけど、たまに毎日じゃない。たまに毎日。
たまに。
今日、明日、次の日、今日はやらない。次の日、明日、やる。で、次の日、やる。それで次の日、やらない。
はい。
誰でしょう？俺が家とかを作ったりする。
Vanilla Eyes
じゃあ他のヒントをあげるね。
はい。
友達にカリルとパトリックとザックとジェフとかに
Adam?
イエーイ。でもなんでなんでアダムって言ったの？なんでなぜヒントはどっちだった？
はい。
ヒントはどれ？なんでアダムって言ったの？
アダム・チェイス？
でも、なんでアダム・チェイスって言ったの？なんで言いましたか？
アダムは友人です。友人。
じゃあ、英語でね、アダムが家わかる？家。
はい、house。
Yeah.
house
を作ったり。そう、作るわかる？作る。
はい。
作ったり。わかる。たりって言ったらたり。たりの意味は、なんての意味と同じ。なんて。作ったり、it's like doing things like that. So 自然、ナチュラルの日本語って言ったら、作ったりって言う。でも、カリルに分かりやすく言ったら、家を作ります。わかる？アダムが家を作ります。仕事で。
はい。
わかる？
はい。
だから、さっき前の言ったことが、
はい、
俺が家を作ったりします。たりの意味が作ったりって言ったら作るだけじゃない。いろんな維持とかメンテナンスとかいろんなことやるんだけど、でも一番言いたいのは作る。わかる？説明してよし。
Yeah.
説明が欲しい
Oh, 説明
説明。
説明意味は何ですか
explanation.
Oh,
説明が欲しい
はい。
So this is kind of hard thing to explain in Japanese. Tari, if you add that to the end of a verb,
Mhm.
it means things like. So it's a way to list doing a bunch of things. So if I was saying like Adam got 家を作ったり、掃除 means cleaning したり so he makes houses, he cleans. It's just like a way to like add a comma between a bunch of different verbs. So if I say tari,
Okay.
and then at the end you usually add suru, so like to do. So it's just a way to like list a bunch of. So I said
Okay.
that I try to say that more naturally, right? To make it more understandable to you and other people listening. I would say something like shimas, or let's just say like skurimas. So Adam got
Okay.
俺が家を作ります. And maybe in the beginning I'll say like,
Okay.
maybe in the beginning I'll say, 俺の仕事で家を作ります. It's like a really like textbook way of saying that.
Yeah.
But it's not very natural.
Okay.
Like if you want to say one thing and be done with the conversation, that's how you'd say it. Like if you don't want anybody to respond, or like you don't really care, that's how you'd say it. If it's a conversation though, you see it. Yeah, it's weird. Like there's a little bit of a nuance. Like if you're having a conversation, you'll say like, he does that. He does that in things. Like I said, toka. It's like,
so it's like a response almost.
It kind of feels like a response, yeah, but it's almost like implying that you'll ask a question. It's just another way to say that. Like the nuance is, right? I just said the one that you understood more. The Adam no shigoto de ie o tsukurimasu. Like at Adam's job, he makes houses. It's like a very like straightforward thing.
Yeah.
The one before I said Adam makes houses and things is what I said. So and does things like he makes houses and other things. That's what I said. And so it becomes more of like he makes that and does a bunch of other stuff too, but I'm not really sure what he does. But it's just sort of like a sure statement, but I said that. And so it sounds more of like something you say in a conversation versus just like Adam makes houses. So
yeah, I can see I'm starting to see the difference.
And also like suru, not shimas, and things like ore, and not using keigo, like son keigo. Not using the respectful language is more like we're friends, so we'd say that. But of course, people you don't know, you'd say, or even people who are older than you and you want to be respectful or whatever, like maybe your in-laws, like my in-laws, or things that you just want to be a little more polite, you'd use more keiko. But even then, like if it's family, you might not use that much. If it's people you don't know, then you'll definitely use it. So it's like getting used to both forms, the respectful levels of how to say things is really important, especially
casual. Yeah.
If you're trying to make friends, the casual's used way more. And so if you don't understand that, it becomes like really kind of robot-ish, like robot language.
Yeah.
When you're just saying like, "Hai, wakarimasu." Like it sounds kind of cute almost because you're just being like overly polite with everything. But if you're having like a real conversation, you're adding, like I did this the other day, and you're adding mas to everything. It sounds like you're the queen or the king explaining your habits like to the general population or something like that, it sounds kind of off. So
weird. Okay.
Yeah, when you're using like a Japanese, when you're using the casual Japanese, and then you might end it with something that's more like, or if you're asking a question, then you can be a little bit more polite and it makes total sense. Like But even then, like if you're saying, so a lot of the times in place of saying like mas or adding some like really really long verb, you'll say like des, and that's it. So you'll say with the casual, and you'll say like des. So I'll say like 食べたかった? Like did you want to eat, right? And then another way to say that a little bit nicer would be like 食べたかったですか? Like, did you want to eat that? But desu ka at the end is like a little bit nicer. Yeah, and then there's a couple other ways to say that. But that's more like the sort of casual but nicer way to say like, did you want to eat that? So like the really, really fancy way to say that would be like, yeah, like the really fancy way to say that is like, 食べはよろしいですか? Or like there's a bunch of different ways to say it that I don't even like, doesn't come to my head really quickly. But you'll always say like at the end instead of you'll always say like よろしいですか? Like よろしい is good. And so you'll say something like a really verb or something like that at the beginning and say wa or ga, and then at the end you'll say よろしいですか? Like, is it good? So there's just like different levels, and I would encourage people to learn the casual stuff first because that's the one that you use the most, especially when you're having like a long conversation. If you really want to get good at like talking and understanding people at the store, sure, like go learn a bunch of.
I only want to talk to workers. I don't want to talk to anyone else.
Yeah, like go, because that was the hardest thing for me actually. The first couple of years going to Japan really was understanding people at the store because they speak so differently, and they have to practice.
Makes sense.
That type of Japanese, by the way, especially like for a little bit more fancy places because it's not normal Japanese. Like they have to, the textbook Japanese that a lot of people learn, they have to practice it because it's not normal Japanese.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so I would definitely.
I guess that makes sense.
It does make sense, and I would say like the example sentences that Wanikani uses are good. That's like normal conversational Japanese most of the time. Sometimes they'll just use a vocabulary word just because it's the vocabulary word, and they have to make up example sentences, even though people don't actually use that vocabulary word at all in normal conversation. So that's a problem. But I would definitely encourage people to not use the super respectful stuff all the time, even though older people like it. Because you're not going to make any friends. Or like it's going to be hard. Like it's going to be harder. You'll eventually get out of it. But
yeah, unfortunately, that's the stuff I learned in high school. So that's kind of what I'm still going off of.
Yeah, and that's the problem is that I wish people would learn. They would teach both to at least let people know. But they make it sound like there's only sonkeigo. There's only like the respectful.
Yeah, that's
language,
true.
Which there's not. There's different levels. Like Korean and Japanese, there's really like maybe 2 or 3 levels of respectful speak. And in Korea, there's like multiple different levels. And it depends on the age. And like it's crazy.
That makes it seem very difficult to learn that.
Yeah, if you think that the filial piety that they have in Japan is super like foreign and different. If you go to Korea, it's like crazy. Like they'll let older people do anything they want.
Yeah.
They'll be like shouting in the trains and like doing whatever, and everybody's just like, oh, like whatever you want, you can do whatever you want because you're older.
Interesting. Yeah. So highly regarded, huh?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So that was fun. I'm surprised that you guessed Adam. I wanted to know, I was trying to ask you in Japanese, why did you pick Adam? And you said, because he's my best friend, right? It's like, okay, cool.
That's all I could give you, really. I didn't really know what you were asking. Well,
okay. Try to guess what I was asking.
I heard naze, so I know that means like why, but I didn't know like why what. I didn't know why or what.
I was asking you like why did you pick Adam?
Okay.
なんで Adam って選んだの? So why did you pick? Why did you select Adam?
I see.
Actually, I think I said why did you say Adam? Adam って言ったんだけど yeah, like why did you say Adam? Anyways, I That was fun. I love the short story thing that you did. That was really great. We'll have to do that again.
I'll try to. Yeah, I'll either find something or try to. I want to write one eventually.
Yeah, you should. Don't use Shrek.
Work.
Don't use Shrek.
I won't. It'll be quote unquote normal.
Sweet. All right. So the goals for the next week, because we're getting long.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your goals for next week?
So that was a nice segue because that's actually one of the goals for next week. I would like to write a very small, either poem or short story.
For you to read next time.
Yes. Because reading is hard, even in English. And then this is a kind of a goal for both of us. We got to come up with a nice intro.
For sure, at least
that we're going to stick with. Yeah.
Yeah, I have some music that I'm adding to the beginning, but I want to have something that we can say every time. And I think that will maybe just come naturally, just from like making stupid jokes or something.
Yeah, we'll get
I don't think it's a big deal. Cool.
All right, what about you?
Continue reading that novel. I do want to not be super hard on myself because then I'll think of it as work and stop. But as much as I'm enjoying the book, I'm going to keep reading. If I'm really not enjoying the book, then I'm going to go pick a book that I do enjoy. I've been doing that with everything recently, like games, with other books, with TV shows. A lot of the times, like I like to think serially, like I paid money for this. I'm going to actually get my money's worth out of it. But if I'm not enjoying it and I bought it for the purpose of leisure, then why the heck would I spend my time? It's more of a waste of time than it is a waste of money, especially if it was only a couple bucks. Yeah.
No, I think that's a good way to approach it. That's what kind of I have been doing too.
Yeah, like one book I was reading. Oh, okay. One book I'm reading is really interesting, but it's kind of long, and I feel like I don't want to read it right now because I have this other book that I bought that I really want to read because it's from one of my favorite authors, and I've been waiting for it for a while. So that book I really want to read more than the other book I was reading, and thankfully I bought both of them, so I can always go back to the other one. So I don't know why I was like so hard on myself to say, no, I have to finish this one first. It's like, no, you don't. You can just go read the other one quickly because you're gonna finish quicker, and not a big deal. And then like the video game thing too. Like I was playing Mario Galaxy, and it was fun. I enjoyed it, but I bought Hades, and I really wanted to play Hades. Like I really, really want to play Hades. And I was like, why am I forcing myself to play Galaxy when I want to go play Hades? It's the weirdest thing.
Exactly.
And I was like, why am I doing this?
And then you started playing Hades, right?
And then I started playing. I'm like, I have this game. I can play it later if I really want to. But I tried
it. Always have it.
I tried it, and it was fun. And I played like 5 hours or something like that. And I'm like, this is fun. But Hades, and I started playing Hades. And I'm like, okay, I'm like addicted to Hades right now. So that was a good decision. So like both the books, both of that, the TV shows, that happens all the time too. If I'm not like enjoying, it's okay to like try it for a little bit and then quit. I think that's my mindset. It's like I don't want to quit.
I see.
But that's business is different than leisure activities.
Yeah.
Like a business, sure, you should push through like the feeling uncomfortable, but you don't need to be so disciplined with like a TV show or something like that. Like or a book. So I'm weird that way.
Yeah, I have similar mindsets with that too.
I think it's the money
finishing
thing.
Shows and I don't even know if it's that. I just like
shows though.
I just feel like sometimes I just don't finish things that I've started. It's just like
yeah, the completionist mindset too. I think it's just there's so much out there too, especially with games, right? Because like
there's so much.
Games used to be physical copies that you have to go to the store for. Like we go to GameStop, for example, right? Get a game, go back home, and then that game was one of the 3 or 4 games that we had, and we would just play the crap out of that game.
Yes.
And also being a child, you like that was all obsessing, right? And so there was more reason to go and find every single part of that, and time to find every single part of that game.
Yeah.
Whereas you get older, and then also there's just more content, and Steam and the eShop is a great example of just like more content than you could like if you downloaded every single game and played all of them, it would be like many lifetimes over worth of content, like hours of content.
Exactly.
Same thing with YouTube videos, for example. Way more so, I think, with videos. But it's like you have to get good at filtering and being like, okay, yeah, sure, I spent money on that, and I got a little bit of enjoyment out of that. I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna move on to something else. Like that needs to be the new okay normal. At least for me, I'm telling this to myself. Same thing with Japanese books. Like if I'm not enjoying this zurui kanashi shotetsu, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna move on to a different book that I like, and hopefully I'll find a book that I really like and I'll stick with.
That's reasonable, and then you always have it. So if you ever want to go back to it, you have it.
Yeah, and I am reading. Like it's not that I'm not reading Japanese, right? Like I'm still reading a little bit, and if I find like this is becoming monotonous, I'm not really interested. I'm not into this book. I'm just gonna go find another book, read a little bit, find one that I can finish. Like I personally need to stop obsessing about like finishing a book. It is a nice goal to like get through something, but for me, it's not getting through it because I can't read it anymore. Like I can. It's for me finding a book that I can get through that I like, that I want to get through. Like I'm actually thinking about during my day to day,
Yeah.
So hopefully this book is that way. I'm not really sure. These books, for example, are hard for me to finish. These type of things. These like manga. Well, manga is different. This isn't really that though. This is more of like there's no story. It's just like a bunch of fun like drawings and stuff. Yeah, I think you would like this more than I like it. I think it's cute, but I think you'd like it more than me, maybe because there's like the drawing is really cool. The drawing is really fun, and there's just like a bunch of little riddles in there too. So it might be like a page a day, for example, might be a fun little challenge.
Yeah, that would.
For you.
There's quite a bit.
There's a lot. But for me, it's like I really am serial in nature, and I really like stories. And so this is not really a storybook. This is more like a fun drawing. Like with these little drawings, it's really cute. This little cafeteria setting with a bunch of little cartoon characters, and this one little girl with her like gerbil face.
Gerbil face.
Stupid effing hamster face. What's that from? Is that from a?
Oh no.
Oh, that's from like the 2chan or whatever thing. Do you remember that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
oh my god.
We need to end this podcast, but that was so funny.
We do, yeah.
It's like that one video of like him going on a rant about 2chan and
yeah, it was like a bunch of videos too.
Yeah. We can talk about that next time. All right, man. I'm gonna end the podcast. Right. And
thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks everybody for listening, watching. I also said brainstorm study tools. I'll say that before we end this. Like one of them might be the drawing, the mnemonic, and have that be like a plugin for people. That would actually be kind of cool. I would actually be interested in building that. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, guys. See you next week or next 2 weeks. We're not really sure.
Yeah, we'll get there. Goodbye, everybody.